Welcome back to the channel, guys. My name's Andy R and this is the Brotherhood of Men. So what am I talking about tonight? Well, I'm glad you asked. I was having a conversation with a guy I know, I'll call him a friend because we are friends, about something that I thought everybody knew. And that is, actions speak louder than words. Pretty straightforward and self-explanatory, you would think, wouldn't you? Now, the guy I was talking to, he phoned me a few nights ago, and I knew as soon as he called me that he wanted a sounding board. Because in my experience, when people come to you for advice, they very rarely want your advice. They just need somebody to bounce their ideas off, because in most cases, most men and women actually know the decision they should make about a certain whatever it is, but just need to convince themselves to make that decision. So they need somebody to bounce ideas off. They don't necessarily need you to even give your input, but just be a kind ear. And that's what it means to be a friend. A man who's a friend to another man gives him that ear, listens to him, sympathises with his situation. But I don't give advice, and he knows this. I learned a long time ago that if you give advice to somebody and things go wrong, they tend to blame you, never mind if they followed your advice or not, but they tend to blame you because it's easier and more convenient than actually taking responsibility for themselves. And wherever possible, most people, they don't want to really face the truth glaring them in the eyes and admit that they cocked up. If there's somebody else they can blame, they will try that. This is more prevalent in women, I find, than it is with men. Men do take ownership of their problems and the decisions they made, if they are a man. And I say that if they are a man because so many boys are growing up with only female influence in their life that they're learning that that's the way to behave instead of learning what it is to be a man. A father in that situation would probably say to the son, grow up, son, stop being foolish, you made a cock up, own it. Whereas a woman would say, oh, it wasn't your fault, it was, that's the nurturing and caring part of her side. She's not doing it to harm the child any more than she would to a daughter. She's trying to justify the actions of the son instead of getting the son to understand that there are consequences to your actions and your words. So anyway, actions speak louder than words. Self-explanatory. I would have thought. The truth is that this guy had never really heard that before, and it kind of shocked him when I led him down the path to come to a conclusion for himself that he understood what I was talking about. So I thought that would make a great video for you guys. So your actions always outweigh your words. It doesn't matter how flowery and wonderful the words are if there's no action to back them up. For instance, if I was to say, you, my brothers out there, people watching this channel, if I was to say you, I think you're absolutely top notch. You're top of the tree, A1, gold plated, solid brothers. I love every one of you. Beautiful words. And then I walk up to you and punch you right on the nose, as hard as I can, right on the button. Now, my words were wonderful and made you feel great, but my actions didn't. So which do you believe? Do you believe the words or the action? Whilst you're trying to stop your nose from bleeding, you're thinking to yourself, but he said I was great and wonderful and that. Why did he punch me on the nose? You see, my actions were completely in contrast to my words. And the thing that's going to stand in your mind isn't the words I said to you, it is the action. So actions speak louder than words. Now that's probably a little bit extreme, but I'm trying to make a point here by using extremities. And that's what I said to my friend. Now, this guy I met through work. I've known him for a number of years. He's half my age. I think he's about 27, something like that now, 27, 28. Like I say, roughly half my age. Met him through work. He's a great guy. We just get on well. We started talking about things, and then he opened up about his personal life. He had certain things happen from childhood and that. He had it a bit rough, to be truthful. But he's a tall guy, he's fit, he's good looking. He doesn't have much trouble attracting women. He works not only as sort of same job as I used to do. He also works as a nightclub bouncer at weekends and that. Now, I've done that work myself, so I know that you're dealing with a lot of women who already come there slightly inebriated. They want to flirt and that. It's all part of the fun, it's all part of the banter. But so we had that in common as well, and we talk about it. And then he started telling me about the relationships he'd had and wondered why they weren't working out for him. The thing is that he's not stupid. He's just probably a little naive. He's got to learn. He's got to take the knocks to learn what it is to be with a woman and how to read the woman, and basically he's got to learn by the mistakes. But nobody lives long enough to make all of the mistakes themselves. You can shortcut this by listening to mistakes others make and avoid them yourself. And I will be doing videos later on in this series of videos about red flags to look out for. You want to go in with your eyes open, and that's what this channel's about. It's about sharing information between us so that you get a better understanding of what you're looking for, what outcomes you're looking for. And in the MGTOW community, it is men going their own way. So you have to figure it out for you. What is your going your own way? Whether that's having a relationship with a woman, having nothing to do with women, somewhere in between. But either way, I still suggest never ever get married. That was in another video, and if you haven't watched it, please go and watch it, because the message there is stark and it's truthful. But in today's society, I can't help but re-emphasise it. Do not, young men, do not ever get married unless laws change, unless society changes. It's not conducive for you to have a good life. Anyway, back to the that was a little aside, and back to the what I was telling you, that actions speak louder than words. So he rang me a few nights ago, and after about 10 minutes of catching up with each other and the usual BS that guys, we English guys or British guys, you in the States and that, we baffle you a bit. It's like the more friendly you are with a guy, the more you insult each other. It seems to baffle you, but it's just the way that we bond as men in the UK, especially in England. But anyway, the usual BS has gone out, taking the mick out of each other, doing the usual stuff. And then I said to him, look, what did you call for, mate? And he says, I've got a bit of a problem. And I went, okay, you lay it on me. What do you want to know? And he said, well, I've been seeing this girl for the last 4 months. And I'm like, okay, yeah, that sounds, she's not, oh yeah, she's pretty and all the rest of it. She said all the right things, she's pretty, she's got a nice body, she's great personality, bubbly. He was a bit smitten. And that's probably why he needed to know where he was going to go, because he had a problem with her. He didn't like how she was behaving when they were out. He said, when I'm with her, she's really flirty with other guys. And I'm like, okay, yeah, I can see how that would be a problem. And he said, but worse than that, he says, and we've had words about it. I says, well, have you brought it up with her? Have you communicated? He said, I haven't. She keeps telling me I've got nothing to do. It's just her personality. I mean, after all, that's how I met her. And I went, yeah, fair enough. That's how you met her. He says, so I spoke, and she says, oh, you've got nothing to worry about. It's, it's nothing. And I'm like, yeah, okay. But her actions are not backing up her words. If she's out acting flirty with other guys and he's there, what message is that giving him about how she respects him? Because it doesn't sound very respectful to me. I don't know about you. You tell me in the comments, does it sound respectful to you that the girl you're with, who is actually with you on a night out, is physically flirting with another guy in front of your face? What is her end goal? I mean, to my mind, it's probably make him a little bit jealous or something, get him to step in and be. But the thing is, he's trained as a bouncer. And if you've ever done that job yourself, your first instinct isn't to step in and start throwing lumps at people. Your first instinct is to de-escalate the situation. In fact, if you're a nightclub or a pub bouncer, your first instinct is to get the problem outside, because that's what you're hired for. Not to start trouble inside the bar, pub that is employing you. It's to get it outside. First and foremost, get the problem outside. You're not trying to be a mediator inside the bar. Once it's outside, two things will happen. One, either it'll kick off, or two, it'll de-escalate. But it's outside now. It's not going to damage anything inside that pub or nightclub. So he's thinking like that. Well, I don't want it to kick off here because of his job, isn't it? Also, it wouldn't look very good for his employees and that if in another pub he caused the problems. So she's not thinking that. Maybe she's trying to get him jealous so he does something, so she feels good about, oh, my man's fighting for me. And I'll do another video on never be jealous. That'll come soon, and you don't want to miss that out. So hit the subscribe button and don't forget the bell notification. That way you will be notified when I issue a new video, and you don't want to miss this content. But like I say, that's another one, how you should never be jealous, ever. And I'll go into that in that video. I haven't got time for it here now. This is about action speaking louder than words. So he said, well, it sort of came to a head a couple of weeks ago. He said she'd gone out with her friends, so he wasn't there. He said, I was working. He says, but we found out there was a bit of a mess up with the roster, and we were overly staffed, and the manager said to me, is there anybody who wants to go home? We weren't going to get paid, but I thought to myself, oh yeah, I know where she's going to be. I'll go and see her. Like, he was already smartly dressed because he was working on the door. Probably not what he'd wear to go out because it was more door attire, more of a suit, but he knew, I can just go straight from here, go into wherever it was that the other nightclub was. And he said, I know I haven't got to pay because the nightclub bouncers there, all the bouncers know each other. They'll just wave me in. He says, when I got there, she was all over this guy. She was literally draped on him. She was snogging the face off him. Snogging, if you're not from the UK, means kissing deeply, French kissing the face off him, and she was draped all over him. So he said, I kind of saw a bit of a red mist, she kept telling me, oh, you got nothing to worry about, all of those platitudes to reassure him that she was his woman. So he says, I went over there and he says, and I grabbed her arm and spun around. Of course, the guy she was with, he gave me a glare, and I said, what the hell are you doing? And he said her name. He said, and this guy was about to throw up, and I just put my hand up and I said, you don't want this, mate. And he must have seen something in my eyes, he said, because he sort of backed away. Anyway, instantly she's like, oh, what are you doing here? I thought you were working tonight, and blah, 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 blah. All the excuses and that. He said, I was fuming with her. He said, so I did the most sensible thing I could. I just let go of her and I just walked straight out of that nightclub and I went home. Of course, my phone's blowing up then. She's leaving messages and texts and all the rest of it. So I saw her a couple of days later when I'd calmed down, and she was all apologetic. Oh, I'd had too much to drink. And I said, oh, hang on a minute. Stop right there, buddy. I said, when did having too much to drink become an excuse instead of a condition? Being drunk's a condition. Blaming it for your actions is an excuse, because nobody forced those alcoholic drinks down your throat. You weren't pinned down with a funnel rammed down your throat and somebody, putting heavy spirits down your neck until you were incapacitated. No, you did that to yourself. So don't then complain, I was drunk or I'd had too much to drink. You were the one who drank them. You knew what situation you were in, who you were with, and where you were. It's an excuse. But when did this become an excuse instead of a condition? So he said, yeah, no, absolutely, you're right, mate. He says, and I was, I was like, well, you told me this, that, and I says, hold it, let's go back a bit. I said, she told you had nothing to worry about. She said it meant nothing. She's just a naturally tactile, flirty person. She told you that she's with you. She doesn't want to be with anybody else. I said, didn't she? And he went, yeah, yeah. And he's starting to get quiet now because he's thinking, oh, maybe I got it wrong. I said, okay, those were her words. Now, how did she behave? And he goes, well, what do you mean? I says, well, when you were out, you were saying that she flirts with other men. That's how she behaved. I said, when you weren't there and she wasn't expecting you, she was draped all over somebody else. She was snogging up. I mean, do you think that maybe she'd have ended up going home with this guy? He goes, well, I don't know. It was too early to tell. I said, exactly. You don't know. But you suspect she might have done because you weren't planning on seeing her that night. So you wouldn't have seen her for till the next day or later in the week. I said, so her words are saying one thing, but her actions aren't backing it up. In fact, they're polar opposites of the words she's saying to you. I said, because actions speak louder than words. And he went, what do you mean by that? I said, have you never heard that phrase, actions speak louder than words? He goes, no, I don't think so. I was like, I thought this was as common as dirt. I thought everybody knew this. Actions. What are young men getting taught these days? So I said, actions always speak louder than words. It doesn't matter how beautiful and flowery and good the words are, like me telling you brothers out there that you're the best, and you are, and then punching you in the face. The actions don't back up the words. And I said, so you should never really listen to the words if you've got actions to compare them to. I said, so what should you do? Because that's what you're really coming here for, isn't it? And he went, yeah. And I went, well, if it was me, like I said, I'd never give advice. I'd tell people what I'd do in their situation. I said, if it was me, if it was me, I'd be done with her. And he goes, yeah, it's kind of the way I've been thinking about it. And I said, so you already know what you're going to do. I said, but the reason I say I'd be done with her is because her actions are not those actions of a girlfriend. They're actions of a free agent, somebody who isn't with anyone. I said, her words are what she thinks you need to hear to stay with her. I said, if I was to say anything, I'm saying that her words are actually calculated. She's trying to have a cake and eat it. Now that's another phrase that people, I thought everybody knew. And it literally means you want to be able to look at the cake even if you've eaten it. You can do one or the other. But that's what she wants. She wants the steady boyfriend, the strong man there that she can rely on, go out on dates, have all the fun and the games with. But she also wants to be able to go out and hook up with other men, because that's the way she's behaving, even in front of him. She thinks that he doesn't have any feelings for her because he won't literally start a fight over her actions. In reality, he's protecting himself, because in this country you have to have a license to be a doorman, a bouncer. And that license can be taken off you, especially if you get into fights in other pubs. I mean, I said, mate, you know, when you told me that, I said to him at the time, I said, mate, she's going to get you in trouble. It's going to affect your livelihood, your income. And I know that that's a second job for you, but you make out well from it. It helps to pay for all the extras that you like in your life. And he went, yeah, it is. I says, sorry, if she was mine, I'd say to her, you know what, I think you're a lovely girl, but I can't handle you. I can't be doing with you anymore. I'm going my own way. The MGTOW philosophy, go your own way. Now I got a phone call from him a few days later, and he said, yeah, I did that. There were lots of tears and everything. He says, but I'm done with her. And I'm like, okay, but it has to be your decision. You have to be the one to make that decision for yourself. And he said, no, but I appreciate talking to you and thanks for listening and all the rest of it. I felt a bit of a prat, calling you up and crying on your shoulder almost. And I'm like, one, you weren't doing any quiet crying. I said, two, if you weren't able to talk to your friends, who can you talk to? I said, and three, I think you already knew what you were going to do before you even picked up the phone to talk to me, didn't you? And he went, oh, I was 9/10 the way of that anyway. And I said, yeah, because you'd already come to the conclusions. You just needed somebody else to say, yeah, I think that's the right choice. But actions speak louder than words. Do you agree with what I said to him? Do you agree with my conclusions that her actions were not backing up her words, and that actions are louder than words? But so many people now, I couldn't even believe that he'd never heard that phrase, actions speak louder than words. I was like, how come? I thought that phrase was as common as dog muck on the public highway. But no, he'd never heard it before. And when I said it to him and explained and showed him what this girl was doing compared with what she was saying, it made perfect sense to him, and it just helped the jigsaw pieces slot into place for him. So, you tell me in the comments down below, was I right or was I wrong? Do you agree that actions speak louder than words? And do you agree that we should always keep that front and centre in our mind when dealing with anyone, not just women, but anyone? Because if you don't remember that, you really hurt, opening yourself up for harm against you. So, my name's Andy R. This is the Brotherhood of Men, and I'm going to go and get a cup of tea because I think I've earned one. And I'll talk to you soon. Bye now.